Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Dating Alchemy with Jen Youngquist. So, this is my No Frills podcast. I literally am starting this just as a way to get information about dating and empowering yourself around dating out to people the fastest. As it grows, I will add um, music and all of that stuff to it. But for right now, I just want to get started and I want to get it out here to all of you. So I am making that happen. Um, so my goal in the episode today is to just kind of introduce what dating alchemy is, what this podcast is all about, who it's for, what you can expect to get out of it. And I'm going to introduce myself and tell you about my story because I think a lot of you will resonate with my story. So let's get started. I've called the podcast Dating Alchemy because I love the word alchemy. So the definition is a seemingly magical process of transformation or creation. So that means that your process of dating will undergo a transformation and you will be creating new results as a result of my program or hopefully even by listening to this podcast. Okay. So, my goal is to help you transform the way that you see dating and relationships because I'm willing to venture a guess that you might be feeling a bit disempowered around dating. So, you might be feeling like it's everybody else, right? Because you can't seem to find a good guy or someone that, wants the same things that you do, right? So it's everyone that you keep finding, right? You could also be saying that you keep picking the wrong ones. And some of you are saying that both, okay? So in other words, some of you are saying it's everybody else and you're saying, well, I also pick wrong, right? So that is a very disempowering way to look at dating because essentially what you're saying is that there are no more good people left to date. Okay. While I do agree that there are tons of what I like to call the walking wounded out there, there are also tons of people who have done their own work and who are willing to go to the level of a partnership that you are looking for. Okay. And I know a lot of you have met some good people, some good guys, and you might friend zone them. Okay. I used to do this as well. Every time a good guy would come along, I tried to have a relationship with them, but I just found myself not being attracted to them. And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to talk about that reason, not necessarily today, but I will cover that because it's a huge part of what it is that I help people with. Okay. So, what are you going to get out of this podcast? You will learn why you are stuck. So most of you listening probably have a pattern in dating where you're kind of dating the same kind of person over and over again, just different face. I did that too. And I like to call these the emotionally unavailable people, right? Because they are some shade of emotionally unavailable. Whether it be they have asked you to marry them, but yet when you try to put together a wedding, right? Then suddenly, it shit hits the fan and things fall apart. Or you just keep finding people that don't really want a relationship with you. They just want to fuck you. I mean, I'm you're gonna find I'm a little blunt. Um, and fuck is one of my favorite words. So, if you have children, yeah, definitely always put this on, play it when you're alone. Um, so you're going to learn why dating has not worked out for you thus far. I'm going to talk about how your energy plays a huge role in what you attract and what you choose. And of course, I'm going to talk about what you can do to shift all of this and find a mate fast. That was my story. I'm going to get into my story here in a moment. But once I started applying a few things, I met the man who became my husband within about 3 months of that. So, it can happen fast if you are ready for it and you want it to. So, who is this podcast for? It is for any woman who desires to find her dream partner and is willing to take charge of the process to make it happen. So, you're going to hear me talk a lot about taking responsibility for your results. Okay? I'm not here to blame anyone. It's not about blaming and shaming. Okay? Because I talk a lot about spiritual principles, people don't really understand how they work. Okay? And if you don't know how they work, then what happens is you get stuck in this loop of creation. If you're creating from a disempowered place, if you are creating from lack, from I don't have, the universe will keep giving you the same thing over and over again. And unfortunately, what we do as humans is we look at those results and we use that against ourselves. We use that to say, see, there's my proof that no matter what I do, this is what happens. Okay. It's about belief ahead of time. And it's the hardest thing to do. I get it, believe me. I'm trying to start a business here. And I'm running into the same kinds of issues that um, I did when I was dating. And I'm trying to switch my own beliefs here to get going. So I'm right there with you, just in a different context. Okay, so I'm Jen, and a little bit about who I am, why I'm qualified to talk about this, and my story. So, I call myself a spiritual dating coach. Um, when I started down this healing path, I didn't know that's where I was going to end up. I started out as a yoga teacher, um, mainly because it was just my own self-improvement track, I guess, because I started out as a painfully shy and reserved person. The thought of getting up in front of people was terrifying. And so I became a fitness instructor to kind of help bring myself out of that. I didn't really want to be so afraid of being in front of people and speaking my mind. So, I started out as a spinning instructor actually first, and then I decided that I wanted to teach yoga. And so I went and got certified, and it taught me a lot about how energy works. It taught me about the human body energy system. And, um, I learned a lot about being present, going inward, and how all of that can help. It can help us in regulating our nervous system. It can help us in healing, all kinds of stuff. And so I wanted to continue down the path, and Reiki was a next step. So I went and got Reiki certified, level 2. I didn't become a master because I'm more like I can translate or transfer energy to people, but I don't get anything back. I feel like I don't know what's happening during the process. Like there's a piece missing. So I never like pursued that more. I did pursue other energy healing modalities, and kind of the same thing happened there as well. I would just kind of get to a point where, I'd progress, and then any progress just kind of stopped. But I learned a ton about how energy works, and then from there, I took a whole bunch of shamanic workshops from a local shaman, a real shaman. So I say that because there are a lot of people practicing nowadays that call themselves shamans that are not shamans. Okay. Um, so this guy's the real deal. And I was hoping that I could become a practitioner and use these skills to help people heal. But again, I just bumped up against my own I guess psychic limitations. And so I wasn't really able to go deep with that. But I learned a lot. I learned a ton about the unseen, more about how energy works, about spiritual principles, and um, then I decided I was going to try coaching and see if I had any more talent in that. And turns out I do. So, um, I first took Tony Robbins, Core 100, certified in that. I took my advanced from, I think they're called strategic, um, intervention, and Mark and Magley Pasha, they actually run the Tony's Core 100, and they have their own program, and I advanced program, and I took that. So that was a good foundation. But I wanted to learn how to really get people results. So I took Joanna Lindenbaum's Sacred Depths, and she taught me how to really hold space for people, how to go deep, and how to help facilitate real transformation. So um, I'm a Sacred Depths practitioner, and that is that's what I do. Those are my credentials. I think the biggest thing that makes me an expert in dating and helping people with their patterns is through my own experience with this. And I have spent a lot of time dissecting my own pattern that I had. Okay, I've spent a ton of time taking what I learned about energy and the universal principles and understanding what was happening to me at the time, why I was doing the things that I did, and I am breaking that down for you. Okay? So, my story. Um, I had my first real boyfriend at about the age of 15, and he turned out to be a narcissistic sociopath. And unfortunately, I was with him for like 4 years. Um, this guy ripped me up, okay? I was already, well, I was the perfect victim, okay? I had low self-esteem, both of my parents, let's just say I didn't have the best childhood. Like, yeah, did they do their best? Okay, sure. But both of them were very wounded people, and so they just passed all that family trauma down. And um, I ended up being very unconfident in myself. I didn't know really who I was. I wasn't allowed to be who I was, to be completely honest. I thought I had to just exist in order to manage the storms, I suppose. Um, I tried to be the good girl, and of course that didn't do it. Um, I was a doormat. I was a fucking mess. Back in my early days and in my teens through early 20s. And I finally was able to get rid of him, and every person I dated after that was some shade of emotionally unavailable. And what I mean by that, if that's a new term for you, is I dated people who put me at arm's length. They didn't really want to let me completely in. They were people who, were not replying to phone calls. Well, back in the day, it was, pager. I would page them and they wouldn't respond. Um, they weren't really, um, the line of communication was spotty at best. Um, or they were people that you would just get to a certain level with, and the relationship would just kind of stall. It wouldn't go forward. Or they were people that didn't want to um, have an actual relationship with me. So they were people that just wanted the whole friends with benefits kind of thing. So the problem was I would hold on to them for quite a long time. So each one of these relationships, even if it was a friends with benefits type of relationship, would go on for 2+ years. I let this stuff drag on for multiple years. Mostly because even if I came to that realization that this was a relationship that wasn't going anywhere, I would still hold on to it because, well, for a couple of reasons. Um, because I thought it was better than being alone. And I was a person that really didn't have any problem being alone. I liked my privacy. I liked living alone. I guess what I didn't like was I didn't have a lot of friends. So, um, and if I was going to go out or wanted someone to do stuff with, it was a boyfriend. So I figured it was better to have someone to do stuff with, even if it wasn't really going anywhere, um, rather than to just be alone. And I always just figured, well, if something better comes along, then I'll just dump them. But what I didn't realize was anyone that's going to come along, um, any good guy is not going to want to get involved. If if I'm already with somebody, they're not going to want to be involved in that, right? It's only going to be the guys you don't want that are going to be willing to try to steal you away. So that was a hard lesson to learn. I lost a good one due to that. Um, yeah, I was actually engaged at the time, and I tried breaking it off so many times, but he would suck me back in, and I would go along with it because thought, well, he's just such a good guy. I'd be stupid to not try again. Like, I thought there was something wrong with me for not wanting to be with him. Um, so he was my first fiance, and looking back, he only asked me to marry him because I gave him the should or get off the pot speech. Like, what are we doing here? If we're not on a track to get married, then we need to break it off and go our separate ways because that's what I want. And he gave me a ring. But then when I started to plan a wedding, things fell apart very quickly. So that was the first fiance. The second one came along, oh, I guess about 8 years later. And same kind of thing happened. I moved in with him. He gave me a ring. And once I tried to, you know, plan the wedding, it fell apart. And then everything after that were was literally just guys that wanted a casual thing. And it was like it just went from bad to worse. So it was it was a rough time. I had a lot of feelings about myself that weren't good. I was thinking, I was feeling like I had this some kind of scarlet letter on my forehead that only guys could see that was like, nope, she's not marriage material. Even though I thought I was a catch. I thought any guy would be lucky to have me. So it's not like I had low self-esteem. It's not like I didn't think that I was worthy. I did think that I was worthy. So ladies, if anyone's telling you you don't love yourself enough, that's horseshit. Okay? You can still love yourself and still have a faulty template for relationships, which is what turned it out to be part of my problem. I'm not going to get into that today, but I will tell you what turned things around for me. Um, I had a work buddy, and I was telling, he knew my story, and I was like, I don't know what the heck's going on. Like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, maybe you should go see somebody about that. Maybe you should see a therapist. And and I was like, why? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, out of all these people, like the common denominator here is you. I was pissed. I was like, you're an asshole. Um, and seeing a therapist was not something that I was going to do because and I don't feel this way now, but that's how I felt back then, was that's giving up. That's quitting, that's throwing in the towel. It's admitting defeat, that you're weak. I had been through abuse in my childhood, and I would say that I had proudly, moved on and healed myself. I mean, I had a great job and, owned my own place and all the whole 9 yards. I was a productive member of society. It's like, this is the only piece that was a problem. So I wasn't about to go that route. And like I said, I don't believe that to be the case today. I would have told, if I could tell my past self anything, like, yeah, that probably would have been a good idea. That wouldn't have been a bad idea at all. It's a good place to start anyway. Um, so I didn't really know what to do. I was feeling like a victim, just like there's nothing I can do about this kind of thing. And I had another friend that was like, "Hey, maybe you should go see this psychic that I've seen, and she's great." And I wasn't really a person into the woo at the time, and I was like, "Well, okay, it can't hurt, right? Whatever, I'll keep an open mind." So I went and saw her, and I don't remember a whole lot about what she told me, but she did give me a book to read. It's called The Cosmic Power Within You by Joseph Murphy. And she's like, I think you should read this book. So I'm like, okay, well, I love to read anyway. So I got the book and I couldn't put it down. I read the book cover to cover, probably in a couple days. And it was a book about basically about the law of attraction, about how to manifest. And he wrote it in such a way, it's through people's own stories of how they went from disempowered to empowered and finally attracted in the things that they wanted. And he does kind of lay out the process and how to do it. And so I thought, well, you know, let's try it. Why not? You know, if it doesn't work, doesn't work. So I got super clear on what I wanted. And that might sound like a small thing where you're like, yeah, I know what I want. I can guarantee you there's a few things that you haven't thought about. And the more clarity you can get around it, the better. And I do have a free workshop that I put on a few weeks ago that took will take you through this whole process I'm about to talk to you about. So I will put the link in the notes to that if you would like to watch it. Um, so I got very clear, very, very clear on what I wanted. And then I spent some time in meditation, um, bringing that to life. And so when you meditate for manifestation, the biggest thing is you have to believe that this can happen like 100%. Okay. You have to believe ahead of time. Because if you don't, if there's a part of you that doesn't believe that you can have this or that this exists, you're going to be trying to create from lack, and you can't do that. You will just get met with more lack. So you have to bring in abundance, you have to believe it, you have to bring in gratitude as if it had already happened. And so I did this for I did it every day for just, a few minutes at a time. And then the third piece is you have to take action. You can't just sit on your couch and expect him to come knock at your door, right? So but you also can't take action from I gotta find this. I gotta find this person. Where is this person? Right? You can't have that energy either. You have to like basically put in your request and then you have to get out into the world and be visible. Not necessarily um, looking for him, but you have to be in places. The more places that you can be and the more people that you can be around, the easier it's going to be for the universe to bring this person to you. And the thing that we don't always really think about is just meet people of all sexes, right? What I did, or the universe brought my husband to me through a stranger, through a woman that I didn't even know. Okay. So I made a pact with myself to do more things that I would not normally do. And I would say yes to things that I would normally say no to. Okay. So I signed up for a charity bike ride event. I normally wouldn't have done that to ride by myself, to pay for it anyway. I ride by myself all the time. I wouldn't have done it around other people, okay? So I did that. This lady walks up to me, she strikes up a conversation. Um, I normally would have tried to get out of it because I'm like, it makes me a little uncomfortable to talk to people I don't know. Um, and I had opportunities to let it go. Um, but there was this nudge like, nope, keep going with it, see where this goes. All right, fine. Like I even lost her one time in the traffic and, in the stream of bikers. I caught back up. We started chatting. So during the ride, she's like, "I have someone I think you should meet." And she told me about him, and she's like, "Would you like that?" And I'm like, normally I would have been like, "I don't know about that. Be a little uncomfortable. What if I don't like him and then she's not gonna like me?" But so I took a deep breath and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure, yeah." And so after the ride, we exchanged numbers, and she did set up the meeting, and I met him, and I wish I could say it was all like rainbows and unicorns and love at first sight, but it wasn't. So, I actually friend zoned him for about a month. Until one day I'm just like, he checks off every single box that I said that I wanted. Like, what the fuck is my problem? And I had to have a real heart to heart with myself. Like, this guy's doing things that none of my exes would have done. Like, why am I not choosing this? And so I realized I wasn't choosing it. I wasn't giving it a chance because it wasn't like the other relationships. It wasn't like the other guys. And so that's when I'm like, well, duh, if you want something different, you got to do something different, don't you? So, um, I decided to give it a chance and keep an open mind. And like after I did that, it things started to fall into place. I started to become attracted to him, and the relationship was just easy after that. And so we didn't get married right away. He was going through his residency and fellowship, so um, there wasn't the money. It just wasn't the time. So once he finally graduated all of that, and became a full-on attending doctor, then he asked me to marry him, and we got married. So, but I didn't get married till I was 43. So that means I would have met him when, see, I was 36 when I met him. Yeah. So it from 15 until age 36, I had some really bad choices in there. Um, and did I learn stuff from these people? Yeah, I did, but I was learning at a snail's pace. And what I realized is I wasn't taking the time to really look at the energetics of the relationship because I didn't know to. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't understand energy. I didn't understand how it worked. So I wouldn't have been able to see the pattern anyway, which is the problem for most of us. Is like, it's if you don't already know and aren't familiar with that, it's really hard to see, which is why I do this work. That's exactly what I do is I help people to see what is happening um, in their relationships and what they need to learn from those, because that's going to tell you what you need to shift, what new energy you need to bring in order to bring um new kinds of people into your life. Okay? And be able to choose them, right? Because at when I met my husband, Jeff, I wasn't choosing him. Okay. So not only do we need to make a few changes to bring the good ones in, we also have to choose them. Okay. And there are so many things that can keep us from choosing them. And I'm going to talk a lot more about those things in upcoming podcasts. So, um, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of, um, y- you know, hopefully it helped you to see that you do have a lot of power here, that you can have what you want. It's just going to take a little bit of work to bust out of your energetic rut. Okay. And I'm here to help you do that. So, if you would like to know more about working with me and what that might look like, you can go to jenyoungquist.com. My last name is spelled Youngquist, and you'll see the link for Dating Alchemy, which is my new program. So I have people fill out an application, um, just because that tells me a little bit more about who you are, what your past is like, are you a good candidate for this? And then once you fill out the application, it'll take you to my calendar where you can pick a time that we can mutually sit down and talk about your application and how exactly I might be able to help you. Um, and then we'll go from there. So, I'll put the links everywhere that I can to help you find that a lot easier. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear your feedback and your comments. So, thank you for your time and attention today, and have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.